Okay, let's have a word of prayer. Lord, I pray that you would be with us. I pray that your Holy Spirit would be so in charge right now. I pray that you would speak to our hearts. Help us to be honest and open to you and let you tell us just what you want us to hear. Please be with me that I would present this material the way you want it said. I pray that the Word of God would speak for itself in Jesus' name. Amen. Mrs. Evans used to say, life is relationships. And if you fail in relationships, you fail in life. Another teacher I had in college used to always end his class saying, Lord, help me do what I do because of you. I think every class he taught, he would end it saying, Lord, help me do what I do because of you. And we're going to talk about health. We've been talking about healthy relationships. If we want to have a healthy, successful relationship, we must go to the one who created those to whom we want to relate. Does that make sense to you? And we must seek his wisdom. There are 4 biblical principles, I think, that if we live by them, we will have a healthy, successful relationship with any person that we're trying to relate to. And I'm going to share those with you briefly, and then we're going to get into this particular relationship. But number 1, Galatians 5:14 says, for all the law is fulfilled in one word, even this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Matthew 22:39 says that is the second greatest commandment. So number 1, love thy neighbor as thyself. That's the first biblical principle that we need to obey in order to have a healthy relationship. Number 2, 1 Thessalonians 5:22, abstain from all appearance of evil. Abstain basically means to restrain oneself from doing or enjoying something. So number 2, abstain from all appearance of evil. Number 3, the third principle is 1 Corinthians 8:4. This is going to be a little tiny Bible study within this message, so bear with me here. In 1 Corinthians 4, in Paul's day, what this whole passage is about, a food was offered to heathen gods, and it was used in religious ceremonies. And the flesh left over from the heathen worship, these sacrifices, was either eaten at the feast or it was taken to the market. And Paul said he could eat that food and it had no meaning to him because he didn't worship that God. He wasn't involved in that religious ceremony. And he ate it just like he ate any food. It was just food. That's all it is. He said he knows there's one God, and that food has no meaning. But to the one who used to worship the heathen God, the eating of that food had a totally different meaning and had a totally different association. And Paul knew that. And Paul draws the conclusion that it's not the eating of the meat that's wrong, but it's the offense it caused to the weaker brother. Here's a brother who had given up that false religion and quit serving that false god, and you're pulling him back into that association. And there's a weakness in his life there because he associates that with, he had put his security and everything in that at one time, and he's been pulled away from that to the true God. But now there's a danger in pulling him back into that because you're getting him to eat that meat that to you means nothing, but to him means worshiping a false god. So that's what this whole passage is talking about. So this is what Paul says. He says, but meat commendeth us not to God. For neither if we eat are we better, neither if we eat not are we worse. So Paul's saying, it's not the meat. He said the meat doesn't make you acceptable, it doesn't present you suitable, it doesn't make you approved of God. That the meat has nothing to do with it. He says, but, number 9, take heed lest by any means this liberty of yours become a stumbling block to them that are weak. For if any man see thee, which hath knowledge, sit at meat in the idol's temple, shall not the conscience of him which is weak be emboldened to eat those things which are offered to idols? And that word emboldened means give someone the courage or confidence to do something or behave in a certain way. So what he's saying here is you may encourage him to go back to worship his false idols if you do this. So this is what he said. He said, even though it does not have an evil effect on him, it may have an evil effect on someone else. So, but if when we sin, he says this, but when we sin so against the brethren and wound their weak conscience, we sin against Christ. What does God call it when we do something that causes a weaker brother to stumble into sin? What's he call it? Sin. On whose part? Ours. Whether therefore, okay, then he says this, wherefore, if meat make my brother to offend, I will eat no flesh while the world standeth, lest I make my brother to offend. Boy, would we have a revival in America today if we could get back to Christians who really believe this biblical principle. You know what we have today? I have my rights. What's wrong with it? We have what's wrong with it churches all over America. I'm not being very nice. I'm not very gracious. But this starts in my toes. I can get really emotional about this subject. People who act like they're so spiritual and love God so much and yet do things that cause people to stumble and are all the time. I grieve. It grieves me. It just grieves my soul. Paul says, I will not do it if it will cause my brother to stumble. So principle number 3 in relationships what did I say? If it offend my brother, I will not do it. If it offend my brother, I will not do it. And then number 4, I'm to glorify God, not myself. 1 Corinthians 10:31, whether therefore ye eat or drink or whatsoever ye do, do all to the glory of God. So let's keep these 4 principles in mind. Now, are these from the Bible? So these are biblical principles. So when you have a biblical principle, you have to apply it to your life, right? So we're going to apply these 4 biblical principles to our relationship with men. We're going to talk about our relationship with men right now. Because that's very important, and I think it's very necessary in our society today, because we have kind of broken down the walls of discretion in our society today. So we're going to talk about why we should have discretion. When it comes to my relationship with men, not my husband, but your husband, the man next door, the man at the grocery store, the young single man that I sit beside at church or in front or behind, I've tried to apply these 4 biblical principles because I want to keep purity as the foundation for each of those relationships. I'd like every man I have contact with to know by the words I speak, the things I do, and the clothes I wear that I do not want to distract him from loving and serving God. That's the message I want to get put across. Remember that teacher who said, Lord, help me do what I do because of you. So this is what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about pure love has no regrets. We're going to talk about purity. And the first part of this lesson is on pure words. Pure words. And I've taught this scattered all over in all different kinds of lessons, but we're going to talk just about how we talk to men. Now remember, we're not talking about our husbands. We're talking about you talking to my husband, me talking to your husband, me talking to your son, your teenage boy. When talking to someone else's husband, let's start with that one. When talking to someone else's husband. So you may be single, you're talking to someone else's husband. You may be married, but it's not your husband. You're talking to someone else's husband. Number 1, don't spend any time alone with them. Now, does that make sense? Let's see what biblical principles we cover on that one. Love thy neighbor as thyself. How many of you want another lady to spend time alone with your husband? That's easy, right? Okay. Avoid all appearance of evil. Think we covered that one there? I think so. Okay, number 2, keep conversation short and to the point. Really, ladies, when I'm talking to anyone that's not my husband, it just needs to be business. I just need to have a reason to talk to them, and it really needs to be business. See, no one else's husband, or really, if I have a husband, no other man should be my buddy. That's what my husband should be. So keep conversations short, to the point. Number 3, keep conversations from becoming familiar. Now, let me tell you how you know when it's becoming familiar. When your conversation drifts from facts to feelings. When you go from facts to feelings. Let me give you an example. Between some sessions up there, I was in the office. There's men all over those offices, but it's a little bit more scarce up there because there's no secretaries up there. So there was Jason Pruitt was in the back office, and then Mr. Record is up there doing CDs, and I'm in my office that's just 2 doors is a door down, and then my husband's in his office, which is in the next hallway. But we're all there together. All the doors are open. It's fine. It's nothing. There's nothing wrong with it. But Mr. Record needed to ask me a question about the CDs. My door's open. He stands in the hallway. He's asking a question. He asked a question about the CD. I answered the questions about the CD. That's the end of the conversation. Now, when he came to the door, I didn't say, "Oh, Mr. Record, you don't know how much I appreciate. You just make me feel so good, make me feel so secure because you take care of all this work for me." This is not inappropriate. Do you understand? Now, I can tell Kathy that, but I don't tell a man that. Now, I may say, "Thank you, I appreciate the good work you did." But I don't think I'd even say that in that situation. Then he comes to the door and I say, "Hey, I got a new scarf. Do you like it?" See, when you go from fact to feeling, now you're familiar. And see, there's a lot of biblical principles that are being broken down there. Mrs. Record, do you want me to ask your husband if he likes my new scarf? No. I love my neighbor as myself. What if Mr. Record and I start talking about how he likes how I look and someone walks by? What would that be? Appearance of, oh yeah, my goodness. Anyway, so we want to not violate our biblical principles when we talk to men to keep purity. No one's husband should be your hero or your good buddy, including your pastor, because he has a wife too. I think we women need to even be careful how we talk to our leaders, our spiritual leaders. We need to be very careful and make sure it's appropriate. There's nothing wrong with saying, "God used your sermon to be a blessing to me." That's fact. But you are just an amazing man. I can't believe how compassionate you are. I don't think that's good. Leave that to me. I'm the one he cares about the most anyway. No. Remember this, God wants us to love our neighbor. He wants us to abstain from all appearance of evil. If it will offend my brother, I won't do it. And I need to glorify God and not me. Okay. When we talk to single men, let's say you're talking to a man who's not someone else's husband. This is some questions, and this could really be any man you talk to, but anyway. You'll know how to sort it out. Just sort it out when I give it to you. Number 1 under that, what will this look like to others? You're sitting in a parked car talking. Innocent conversation. Is that good? Why? What principle are you violating? Appearance of evil. Yes, because not all people who sit in parked cars talk. Is that right? Oh, come on, you look so innocent. You're talking in a dark corner after church somewhere outside. No. So ask, what will this look like to others? Mr. Record stops in by my office door when no one else is in those offices except for somebody way down on the end. Do we want to have a long conversation there? Because what will this look like to others? Number 2, is this the right type of man to be seen spending time with? That's a real big one, especially you single girls. Ask yourself, what reputation will this cause me to have if I start spending a lot of time with this certain type of man? Number 3, avoid talking about anything that draws attention to to your body. This is any conversation with any man besides your husband. Your husband would probably enjoy a conversation like that, but any other man. And I just got back from the beauty parlor, and they just trimmed my hair. I think it might be a little too short. No. So a man doesn't need to have his mind go to your looks. He doesn't need any help, ladies. It's already been there and come back. Any man that has walked by you has been there, up and down, and come back. And he's done something with his thinking. He said, okay, I can't think that way, because he's a man. So he doesn't need your invitations. He doesn't need you to help him. But your hair, your nails, any part of your body, your clothing, just don't have a conversation with a man that draws any attention to your outward appearance. Remember, what we say ought to glorify God, not us. And men do not need to be brought, nothing about us needs to be brought to their attention. Feelings or appearance, either one, unless it's your husband. You might think this is really out, but this is what will keep you pure. And we already found the biblical principles to cover this, didn't we? So is this Tammy Goddard's opinion? No. This is a biblical principle. If you don't want to violate a biblical principle, these are conclusions you come to. Number 2, pure wardrobe. Let's talk about our wardrobe. You knew you weren't going to get out of this ladies' conference without this. A little bit said about this, didn't you? Do you know what? I want to say this. I cannot control what a man thinks, but I can control what he thinks I want him to think. Do you understand that? Let that sink in for a minute. Here's some facts about men and their thought life. Now, I know we have a few single ladies in here, but all the teens are out, so I think you're all mature enough to handle this. Men think about sex 33 times a day. Some of you are sitting there thinking, I think that's probably about right. Immodesty can be put in perspective when women understand the stronghold that lust and pornography have on men today. The pornography industry in the U.S. rakes in $12 billion a year. Surveys taken by Focus on the Family, Insight for Living, and other Christian organizations who surveyed Christian men, show that half of the male respondents indicated that they viewed porn within the past few months. We have a real problem in America today. In this statistic, if this statistic is correct, 5 out of 10 men you see in church have looked at porn recently, some of them daily. Now, ladies, these are just facts of life. We can't keep our head in the sand and pretend these things aren't true. Men who want to stay pure are finding impurity pursuing them. It is very difficult for men in our society today. And I read this in a book that was written by someone who is not like us, but it is someone who's honest. Many commercials feature scantily clad women, if you watch TV. Almost everywhere a man looks, he sees skin, from the magazines at the checkout counter to the billboards along the highway, and you know that. Men get an eyeful just driving to work every day. A man may be doing fine with his thoughts 1 minute, and then a woman in a short skirt and high heels walks by, and something stirs within him. He starts thinking about how he can relieve the sexual pressure that bubbles up somewhere deep in his soul. Men are just made differently. When a lady dresses immodestly, she draws attention to the person rather than the personality. The lady who chooses to be modest chooses to be respected. So here's some truths about men and clothing. In a secular study, we did this last year, if you were here, for our modesty minutes. In a secular study done by Toastmaster, which is a corporation for public speaking on leadership and body language, And they're not a Christian organization, and they had no agenda behind this. They just wanted to do a survey and find out. Basically, they were doing a survey. Ladies, this is what you can do to attract the attention of a man. This is what the survey was all about. Now, are we supposed to want to attract the attention of men? Okay. Do I want you to dress or act or stand or sit or talk in such a way that you attract my husband's attention? No. Why? Because, and if you won't do that, you're obeying what? Love thy neighbor as thyself. Remember the biblical principles? When it comes to body parts, Toastmaster says, men are split in 3 fairly even groups: the bust, the behind, and the legs. I don't think I'm saying much of what you don't already know. To attract a man's attention, a woman must draw attention to at least one of these 3 areas. So let's see what he had to say, what the survey had to say. The behind. Wearing designer jeans has also become popular because they highlight the buttocks and give them a firm, rounded look. High-heeled shoes make the wearer arch her back, push out her behind, and make her wiggle when she walks, which invariably draws a lot of attention. I was in a nail salon waiting for an appointment, and you know how you make an appointment, then you wait when you get there? And there was a magazine that was sitting there, and you know, they're just trashy magazines. I never read those magazines. But I saw the article, How to Dress, how did it say? How to Dress to Get the Attention of a Man. And I thought, I want to read this article. Not because I wanted to attract attention of men, but I wanted to see what honest people would say. Because, you know, we have to know what attracts the attention of a man to not do it, right? If we're not supposed to do it. So the lady said she experimented, and she went out like 5 different nights to nightclubs. And do you know the outfit that attracted the most attention? She wore all kinds of things. Tight jeans and a low-cut top. That was the number 1 outfit that turned men on the most. That's just what she said. So she was suggesting that you all go out and buy tight jeans and low-cut tops if you want to attract attention of men and get hot dates with them. And she was just not looking for a relationship. She was looking for a hot night out on town. That's what the article is. It was a real smutty article. I kind of skipped through some things. But I did want to know what she had to say. Okay, the behind, the bust. Low-cut tops and push-up bras emphasize the bust line by creating cleavage. Nearly all sex research surveys show that it does not matter the size of the bust, but it is the cleavage that stimulates men the most. A woman can be the size of a small lemon or look like watermelons. Most men are keenly interested in them all and love cleavage. So what do we have in our society today? We have what? The push-up bras and the low-cut tops, because that turns men on. Now you have to go back to your biblical principles. I'm just being honest, ladies. I'm not saying anything, just like I'm going to tell you that God says gossip's wrong. I'm going to tell you that God says we shouldn't steal. And God said, I'm going to tell you that to not violate these biblical principles about relationships and to keep your relationship with men pure, we need to know these things. And some of you thought, I have never heard this in my life. I've never even thought of this stuff. And I hadn't either. I was 18 years old before I ever heard any of this. It didn't even dawn on me that it even mattered. But if you really stop and think of it, most of you are old enough, you know what I'm saying is true. I mean, if you watch a television program, especially in our day and age today, and you see where the camera focuses on women. When it's, okay, you know where the camera's focusing is where the man is looking. You know how you know that. So here you see this man, and then you see he's looking at something, and then the camera shows you what it is, and it's a woman. What is he looking at? Legs, bottom, bust line. I mean, so we know this is true, right? Okay, so the legs. So we talked about. If you want to attract attention, long legs have always been associated with potent female sexuality. The more leg you show, the more sexy you look. If you do not want to attract attention, and they did have a section for that because they said, listen, business ladies, when you have to do business And it's important that the men that you're doing business with listen to you and take you seriously and think about who you are and what you're saying. You need to be very careful. It says if you're a woman, avoid crossing your legs when you are sitting with businessmen unless you are wearing an A-line skirt that falls over your knee line. Because the sight of a woman's thighs is distracting to almost all men and distracts from her message. They'll remember who she was, but they won't remember much of what she had to say. So business ladies out there, I think we're all in business for Jesus, huh? I think we all have a message to portray for Jesus. Do you want men to remember what you look like, or do you want men to remember what you stand for and who you love and what you want for them? Many women wear shorter dresses in business because this appearance is continually thrust at them by the media. Over 90% of all female television hosts are presented with short dresses and exposed legs. This is because studies prove that male viewers will watch the program for longer. But the same studies also show the more a leg a woman shows, the less men can remember the content of what she said. The rule here is simple. If you want a man to respect what you say, don't expose your thighs to him. Is that simple? Truth? There's a very good chance that we could cause a man to have impure thoughts if we show much leg. Once the hemline rises above the knee, a man is extremely attracted to a lady's body. So practical advice here is keep the hemline all the way down to the knee, whether standing or sitting, and avoid extremely high heels. Now, if we want to obey biblical principles, and we know a man is totally distracted by a lady's thighs, and he won't remember much about her except for how she looked, this is a saying, dress how you want other women to dress around your husband. Any of you have Facebook? Raise your hand if you have Facebook. You know that you learn a lot of things on Facebook. You learn a lot of things you wish you didn't know on Facebook. I don't have a Facebook page, but my husband does. And he mainly got it for our church people. We usually only accept for friends, church members or pastors or missionaries. They're our friends. But every once in a while there's a post on there, and I know it might be someone in this room. Put a post on there, and they put this post: dress how you would want other women to dress around your husband. And it was a real pretty picture of a lady. It was only like from here down, a picture of her with a modest length skirt. It was like a pink dress and pretty shoes. And you could just tell it was a pretty modest lady in this dress. And then that caption was over the top of the photo. And I just thought it was a real sweet way to say, be careful, ladies. Oh my goodness. You know how people comment? Now, I don't know who this person was, and like I said, it may be someone in here but she had some amazing friends. You know, they call them friends. People want to be our friend we don't know. I think, who is this? They want to be my friend, but I don't know who they are. I guess friend on Facebook is not the same as friend in real life, maybe? I don't know. But anyway, this girl who put this on, I'm sure it was a girl. Man, wouldn't have put that picture on there. She got the most amazing comments. People giving Bible studies on why the word modest doesn't really mean showing skin in 1 Timothy 2, and it was just amazing, the defensive, the angry, the amazing comments this poor girl got on her post from dress how you want other women to dress around your husband. She didn't tell anybody how to dress. She didn't say what they ought to do or what they ought to not to do. She'd just say, use your judgment, ladies, and dress how you would like other ladies to dress around your husband. And I thought, we are in a mess. We are just in a mess. Because these were all Christian girls commenting on it. They missed the whole point. They totally missed the point of, if it offend my brother, I will not do it. Avoid all appearance of evil. Love thy neighbor as thyself. They miss the whole point. But anyway, a pure walk. A pure walk is next. Did you know 90% of all human communication is nonverbal? How many of you have ever watched something without the volume on and you can tell what's going on? You could tell they're really happy. You could tell they're really angry at each other. I mean, you don't really have to hear the words. You pretty much know what they're probably saying. So we're going to talk about pure actions. How about when you're sitting? When you sit in such a way that you do not attract attention to any part of your body. We already talked about crossing your legs with a skirt on. That's why it's important to sit fairly straight. This is pretty much while you're around men. Okay, we're talking about when we're around men. Hands in your lap, or you could put one hand on the wrist of the other. Your knees together. All of those are sitting in a way that just shows a pure relationship with the man. It shows respect for the man. It's not sitting in a way that doesn't draw any attention to your body. Sitting, with your hand on the back of the thing when you're talking to a man, going up to a wall, standing. Standing's the same way. Keep a proper distance and don't touch. Keep hips even. Keep shoulders straight. Don't go up to a wall. Put your hand above your head, lean on it. Talk to the guy. Now, most of us said we would never go up to a man and talk to him that way. You know what, girls? Don't play with your hair while you're talking to a guy. Don't caress your arms. All of those things are doing what? They're drawing attention to your body. Don't touch him when you're talking to him, unless he's like 80 years old or something. He needs a pat. Mrs. Cowling? Now, how we stand and how we sit are so important because it's body language. So we need to even be careful. Even when we're saying the right things, we're dressed modest, just even be careful when we're with men, our body language. Now, I'm going to say something. I am going to go where all men will fear. How do you say that? Where all men fear to tread? No, that's not how you say it. What? Yeah, fools rush in where angels fear to tread, and I'm going to be a fool right now. If you're not supposed to stand a certain way or sit a certain way because it draws attention to your body around a man, do you think maybe it would be a good idea you didn't take pictures of yourself doing those things and send it to all the men on your Facebook page? Post it on your wall so all your friends get it? I said it. What are we thinking? We've got girls who are acting like filthy fashion models with their sensuous poses, standing and sitting, pulling their dress up. I'm thinking, what are these girls doing? Okay, I said it. If I hurt anyone's feelings just now, I am so sorry. But can we just stop and think about purity for a minute here? Men do not need pictures like that. If it's wrong for you to do it in person, it's wrong for you to send a man a picture of you doing it. And we're stupid with this Facebook stuff. What you put on Facebook goes to every man that's your friend. Are we thinking? If some girl took those pictures and put them in an envelope and addressed them to my husband and mailed it to him, I would be hot. But yet she puts it on her Facebook page and sends it to him. Now, he doesn't look at them. But am I making any sense to anybody here? Does this make sense? And ladies, we need to help our daughters. We need to help our daughters understand these things. And we need to help us, you ladies who are becoming photographers. I love that. I love that's a big thing right now. And I love being able to go to your friend and she could do your family photography. Let's just be careful that we're not taking pictures of things that are improper and then showing them to everybody. If a girl shouldn't sit with her thighs exposed around men, she shouldn't be putting a picture of her sitting with her thighs exposed. So let's just think through our biblical principles in every aspect. A picture is almost worse than the real thing. So let's be very careful, ladies. And I really thought a long time about saying this because I didn't want to hurt anyone. I don't want anyone to think I'm judging you. I'm just saying I think we need reminded once in a while. We just need reminded about, our college girls need reminded about things. I would love to be able to go to a college, all the colleges, and talk to these girls who want to go in the ministry, who want to be Christian leaders, and tell them, what are you thinking? Anyway, okay, I got that off my chest. I really do love you, and I love the Lord, and I want our men to have a chance. And I want the ladies in our churches to be pure and to help the men know that they want them to be pure. 4 things I want my words and my wardrobe and my walk to say to every man in my life. Number 1, I'm trying to love my neighbor as myself. Number 2, I'm trying to avoid all appearance of evil. Number 3, I'm trying to stay away from anything that would cause you to stumble. And number 4, I'm trying to glorify God, not myself. Oh, if we just take those principles and use them with the words we say, the clothes we wear, and how we act, we could bring purity back into our churches, and we need a revival of purity in our churches. Let's pray. Dear Lord, I do pray, this is not the